Okay, hello there. Sorry I'm late. I just spilled a bunch of beads. Okay. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Cindy. This hair. Oh, okay. Hi, Diane. Good, I'm glad you find us. Hey, Jazz. Hi, Wendy. Everybody's coming on. That's great. That's great. Okay. All right, let's hope that we have a good, clear broadcast today. Jennifer, it's too hot. Yeah, how hot is it where you are? Hey, Nancy. Super hot. Where are you guys at? Jennifer, Nancy? Hey, Jazz. Yeah, it's been hot and muggy, bad here, and very rainy. I think too much rain now. We needed the rain for sure, but enough is enough. So you go outside and the humidity is so thick, it's like you could cut it with a knife. It's so thick. 95 in New Jersey. Yeah, well, if it's humid, it'll feel hotter for sure. Because that's how it is here. Oh my gosh, Nancy. Idaho, it's 106 degrees. That's terrible. Yeah, I don't know what's with this weather. It's pretty crazy. Okay. Hi, Tammy. Yep, it's hot all over. I heard it's very hot in Canada as well, which I think is very unusual. Sunny, 109 in Arizona. Yep. Yep. But it's a dry heat, right? I bet you're sick of people saying that, huh, Sonny? Yeah, that's really hot. Okay, so today we're gonna make a wire bangle. I'm gonna make it in copper, but I have made these in silver as well. I think once you get the feel for it, if you want to make one in silver, if that's your thing, you could go for it. I'm gonna turn the camera down a little bit. Okay, so here are the bangles. I'm going to get the camera at the right angle here. Okay, so here's the one that I had advertised as doing in the demo, which we're going to do. And here's one that I have done a while back in silver, which is equally nice. Just depends what you like and what you can afford too, because silver is like crazy expensive right now. So, but they're fun with the lampwork beads in there. This was a bead that a friend of mine made, gosh, probably 10 years ago. And this was before I started making beads, and I just fell in love with that. So I had to make a bracelet with it. I think it's really pretty. Yeah, silver is pretty fun. It never goes out of style, and pretty much you can wear it with anything. Of course, copper's getting that way too. Yeah, I do really like copper as well, but this is one of my faves. All right, so I may just wear that. All right, so this is what we're going to do today. I had made some bead sets, and some people purchased them. You can use whatever beads you want. They don't have to be specifically lampwork beads. You can use all kinds of different things with that. Just leave that up to your imagination. So I have a set here. This is a cream and red set that I'm going to use today. All right. So I guess the first order of business would be to twist some wire. So I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to show you two different ways because not everybody has all the things. So this is a wire winder that I have that came with my jump ring system. So I'm going to be using this. And I'm also going to use my husband's electric drill, which he's letting me borrow for the demo, but I have to promptly return it when I'm done. So that way you can see both methods. And I kind of twist the end of this wire just to make it a little bit thicker to go inside the chuck of the twister. Nothing fancy, just a little bit more grip for the wire, but you don't have to do that. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the whole reach of this because of my limit. What I did is I took a piece of wire about a yard long, and this one happens to be 20 gauge. Okay, you can use a variety of sizes. It's just going to make your coil a little bit thicker or thinner. It's really just a matter of choice and maybe also of what you have. But the thinner gauge wires, I would go probably as far as 18 gauge. 18 gauge does get kind of thick. This is an 18 gauge right here. But it has its purpose in different applications too. So yeah, this is 20 gauge, 20 or 22. Either one is fine. I've got, I believe on my sample that this is 22 on here. And this section here might be 20. I can't say for sure, but it's not a whole lot of size difference. The major difference between these two is that I used a 2mm mandrel to coil the wraps, or to wrap the coil, I mean. And then on this one I used a 3mm, so it's a little bit wider. Okay, so that's the only difference. Okay, so I've got my wire in the wire winder here, and the other end, I'm going to show you here how I hold it. I've got it doubled, it's in the chuck, and here's the other end, which has a loop on there. And what I do is I hold that loop with something like it could be anything. This is kind of large, but let's just use this for an example. I'm just going to put this pen here. All right, so that wire is stretched out taut. Okay, and then I'm going to come back here. Hopefully you can see this okay. Okay, so I'm going to come back here, and then I'm just going to start to twist, just to wind the wire. And as I'm doing this, you can start to see the wire starts to twist. It takes a while to do it manually like this. Okay, and then I'm going to do another one with the drill just to show you the difference in speed. But you get the idea. I think you can see this okay. The wire is twisting. And I twist it quite a bit. Oh yeah, Jazz. We respect each other's tools. That's a you know, if you use the other person's tools, you got to make sure you don't screw it up, number one, and number two, you put it back where you found it. So it works both ways, on his side and my side. Okay, so this is starting to get a pretty good twist here. And the wire that's on my pen, let me see right here, it's tight against, you know, there's a loop right there, and so it's snug against here. So I'm going to take this off. Try not to move the camera too fast so I don't give you a headache or make you nauseous. All right, so I'm going to take the wire out of the chuck here. And then my pen slipped out, so that's good. So that's how that looks, okay? That didn't really take too long. All right, now I'm going to do it with the drill. Let me move my wire here. I will do I'm just kind of, I didn't measure, I just pulled some off. If you are trying to make a really long piece, you know, for a really long coil, unless you have gorilla arms, you know, you can't stretch them out that far. So try to just cut your piece so that you can manage it. Excuse me, unless you have someone to help you and they want to hold it out for you. All right, so here's hubby's drill. And I'm going to just make a little bit more of a grip on there. Stick the wire in, close it up tight, and let's see here. I have an awl too that I use sometimes to hold the opposite. Oh, now see, I didn't tuck that in as good as I thought I did because the wire came out. Get in there and stay in there. Sometimes if you don't have it dead center in there, that happens. Can I put my camera horizontal? I can try it, Deb. We'll see. Rotate your, it says you can't turn your device while you're live. Well, okay, figures. Sorry, Deb. All right, so I've got the wire in the drill, and since this is not stationary, I'll just move this out, and I've got my loop end over here, and I'm going to put my awl on this end to hold it like that. Okay, and now I'm going to turn on the drill, and you have to kind of go slow. Just, well, I mean, it doesn't have to be real slow, but my point is just so that you don't get it, you know, that it doesn't get away from you if you go too fast. But this is a lot less effort. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to go. All right, so that is on my awl. I'm done with his drill. Okay. And then I'm just going to snip off the ends here. And then I'm going to look at questions or comments for a moment. Yeah, Sonny, I'm just using the, what am I using? 20 gauge right now. Okay. Jazz asks how I determine what size mandrel to use. It is just preference, really. It just depends on how fat you want your coils to be. So I kind of like the look of that skinny one for the sides here, for this long side, but that's totally a preference choice. Okay. All right. All right. Your wire's not twisting. What am I doing wrong? Let me see here. Yeah, did you hold it taut like Jennifer mentioned? Okay. Okay, great. You got it to twist. All right. No, I did just one gauge for each one. You know, this is totally both, you know, it's one wire, it's one length of 20 gauge wire that I just kind of turned over like this. So they just coil on each other. But you can do it whatever size wire you want. Okay. I'm sorry I couldn't do the camera horizontally, but I hope you got it. Patricia, you want to see my earrings? Okay. These are the hammered link earrings that I did a necklace. A bracelet demo. I don't know, a couple months ago probably, but it's in the files if you want to look for it. But it's in there how to make them. Okay, put that back on. Okay, so I've got my wire coiled, and I'm going to go back to this. Yes, exactly, Sonny. Thank you, Patricia. Okay, so now I'm going to use my mandrels. These came with the jump ring cutter too, but I think you can buy a set of these mandrels at Harbor Freight. I think that they are available. All right, so this is a 2, a 3, a 3.5, and a 4. I'm pretty sure I used a 4 on some of these fatter coils, but I kind of like the look of the skinny. Okay, so I'm going to put my 2mm. This is kind of a strain on 2mm, but because the wire is kind of thick. But I'm going to, and I know I put mine in kind of cockamamie than other people do, but this is how I like it. So I'm going to it's got a little slot on the end of the mandrels. This is kind of tough for this 2mm. And you know what? Maybe I'll make it the bigger one. Just for shits and giggles, as they'd say. This wire is just a little bit too fat for that. How can that be? Oh, I see. My mandrel is dented. It's not open fully. I'm afraid if I do this, I might break it off. No, I don't want to go that route. Operator error. I can't see either. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay. Then we'll go to one that I know well. Okay. So I just put that wire into the end, but you can feed it in through this end if you want. Okay, so I put that in, and now I'm just going to turn the handle and make my coil. And I'm holding on taut on the end of this wire because I want to make sure that each coil lines right up next to the one before it, so there's no gaps in it. Okay, so then you've got some little ends to snip off. If you can, I like to kind of snip it off on a diagonal if I can, like on a slant, I should say, just so that second wire isn't going to be poking you. One of the two wires, you know, one is on the outside and that can poke you a little bit. But it's a good idea to sand these little rough edges on either side. Once you know the size, if you're going to be cutting this up in pieces, then once you've made your cuts, then I would sand those little edges so they don't stab you, or they probably wouldn't stab you, but they might catch on your clothing. So that would be more like it. Let's see here. Let me look at questions here. Yeah, Deborah, the winder was part of the jump ring kit. But, you know, I'm kind of thinking, well, I mean, this isn't a complicated thing to make if you were so inclined, you know, to do so. But because they sell these chucks just by themselves, you just need a few other little parts. Maybe that would be too ambitious. I don't know. But yeah, I'll see. I'll put some kits out. Excuse me, some names. Kevin Potter has one, and Peppy Tools has one too. So I will put those things out after I'm done. No, I don't anneal anything, Deb, on this project. Okay. Okay. Yeah, any of the wire, I mean, any of the jump ring kits, maker kits, will have a wire winder. They might look a little bit different. This one's a pretty rinky-dink. This was an old one, pre-Kevin Potter. But the guy Kevin bought the wire winder or whatever, the coil jump ring maker set from, you know, this was his original, and then Kevin modified them and made them look a little bit better and probably act a little bit better. No, this wasn't a full yard of wire, Jazz. And it's also, you're going to get less the wider your mandrel is that you're turning it on. So if I had used the 2mm wire, it would be longer. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do the skinny one again. And I'm just not really good at I don't know, I've seen people put the wire in right at the end, like in here, but that's like so opposite of how I know how to do it that it seems more complicated to me. But maybe it isn't. I'm going to try so you can witness that I'm trying. Okay, now we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But you see this 2mm is pretty fragile compared to the other. I don't think I have it in quite straight, but that doesn't matter as long as it doesn't fall out while I'm doing this. It's just wonky. But it works. This piece is probably close to the same size that I cut for the other one jazz. Be careful at the end, you know, that wire kind of flips back and wants to stab you. Okay, well, I lost a little bit putting it in the thing that way. So cut that off. Okay, so these are the two that I just did. Okay, so this is with the 2mm and this is with the 3mm. All right, and I think I'm gonna make one more. I'm gonna do one more, coil one more. I guess I'll use his so I get done faster. I just kind of did like a wingspan as a measurement, just stretching my arms out, you know, as far as they go, and use that as my measurement. All right, so yeah, all right. Okay. So put the skinny one back in here, because I want to make two of the skinny ones for my bracelet here. Oh, this isn't the skinniest one. Darn it. Oh well. I figured that was too easy. Okay. So I have different sizes. Well, these two are the same. So I'll use these two in my in my bracelet. Okay, so yeah, I may have to get my own drill now, Jazz. Never ends. Let's see. Okay. All right, Sonny, let's see. What are you doing? Are you using what I did? Let's say what I did, okay? I took 20 gauge wire and I took about an arm span. You know, if I stretch my arms out both ways, you know, it's about a yard, okay? So I took that, cut off about a yard's worth, double it or fold it, and then put the two ends in the drill, okay? And then I twisted that, okay? Yeah, the tool black hole, that's no kidding. No kidding. Giant black hole. Okay. I'm making, I need to have enough for both sides of the bracelet. So 2 coils. Okay. You need 1 coil on this side and 1 coil on this side if you're going to have a whole coil like this. If you're going to do it like this bracelet. And then I've got 2 little pieces, 2 little sections that are a little bit, I think I used the 3mm on these 2 mandrel, and I think I used a 2mm on this one. So it doesn't really matter which ones you use unless you want to have different size coils, you know, if you want them to be a little bit thicker. Okay. Yeah, you have to hide your stuff. Well, it's just my husband and I right now, although my daughter is home for a little while. But she's not interested in my tools at all. But my grandson, on the other hand, when he comes over, he loves my tools. And I've had to lay down the law with him a few times because I don't mind if he plays with some of my stuff, and he knows what he can play with and what not, but he has to return them where he got them. And that is something that doesn't always happen. So, yeah. So that's just how it is with kids. And sometimes with spouses. Okay, so, yeah, I hear you, Deb. Well, my husband's pretty good about putting my things back because he knows when Mama's not happy, nobody's happy, right? That is really the truth. There is no doubt about it. All right, Sonny, if you are having trouble, and I'm going to keep moving on with this, but if you're having trouble, we can talk later on and I'll catch up to speed. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is make the discs for the sides of the beads. Okay, so I've got 2 metal discs on either side of this the focal bead. Okay. Okay, great. All right. All right, so we're going to do that. And I have my disc cutter right here. And it's really based, the size disc that you need is based on the size bead that you're using, basically. You don't want, I mean, if anything, I would make a smaller disc than a larger disc, only so that you're not covering up all your focal bead. So that where is my focal bead? Oh, I set it over here. Okay, so this is the bead that I'm going to be using. This one is a little bit more, it's round, but it's a little flatter than the one that's on the this bracelet here. That doesn't make any difference, but I want to make sure that I'm not covering too much of that bead with a bead cap. Okay, so in this, for this particular size bead, I am going to use a 1/2 inch disc cutter. So I get a little 1/2 inch circle. That seems like it's a good size. I would not go any larger than that because it would just cover up too much. Okay. Okay. All right. So I am going to, now you can use pre-textured metal if you want. That's totally up to you, or you can, it can be plain, or you can stamp a design on it if you want. It's up to you. So, and also the size, the thickness of this copper really doesn't make too much difference. You could go thin, you could do a 24 gauge piece of sheet. That's fine because it's just covering up. It's just a design element more or less, but you could use whatever you have. This I think is 22 gauge on this sheet, so I'm going to use this. If you do a lot of stuff like this and you don't have a disc cutter, I would encourage you to get one because they're wonderful. But sometimes it takes time to acquire all the stuff. So, and I generally cut with my pattern face down only because of the edge that's on here. I'd rather have the edge. Sometimes there's a little bit more of a sharper edge, and I'd rather have that on the bottom side of the disc than on the top. But I'm going to be filing it anyway. So I'm going to try to wedge this in here, or put it in here to utilize my copper, my sheet. Line that up. And I have a disc. I have a little disc. This is the Peppy Tools disc maker. This is one of their original ones. It's an old model. The new versions are round. The unit is round. There's no difference as far as the sizes or function. This is just an older style, and it still works great. So, not replacing it anytime soon, hopefully. Okay. So I cut my 2 little holes out of there. See, I'm utilizing this sheet as much as possible. Okay. Okay, so now the discs have a little bit of a sharp edge. They're not bad, but I'd like to sand those down a little bit. So I have you can use whatever you have. As far as a sanding stick, you could use a sanding stick, no problem. You could just go around the edge like this and just sand that off, file that off a little bit and make it nice and smooth. Or, I mean, this is fine actually, just like that. Or you could use this nifty little thing. It's just an acrylic block. It's just a piece of acrylic. It's like what rubber stamp people use. It's just a little clear acrylic block, and I've got double stick tape on here with a little square of sandpaper, and I can remove that and replace it as needed. Then on the opposing, I have another acrylic block with a piece of double side sticky tape, but this is like really thick stuff. And I think Tanya Davidson came up with this nifty little idea. Gwen Fuller, Youngblood, Gwen Youngblood also has a sander very similar to this too. So you just put your disc on there and just put it on here and let it do the work. And I just kind of sand it in a circular motion. And it sands the edges real nice. And this is a new piece of tape that I put on here, so it's really, really sticky. It doesn't leave any residue on the metal though, but it holds really well. I bought the tape on Amazon. I can also look that up for you if that's something that you're interested in. It comes in a roll. I can't remember how many feet, but it'll last you a real long time. So yeah, that makes short work of your sanding. Okay. And then there's a protective film that, you know, when you peel this tape off, I always put that protective film back on here, so that way other stuff doesn't stick to it and it doesn't get crud all over it. So, okay, yeah, I'll put that on the Amazon link, and you can get some tape. And maybe they have acrylic blocks too. I don't know. All right, so that's sanding the disc. So now we're going to dome the discs. And I have a metal doming block. The wood ones are okay, but they don't have a real deep well in them, so you'll get a gentle curve from the wooden blocks if you have a wooden block similar to this. Although I don't really want a real deep curve in this, but the wooden ones also don't have really small holes in them either, so it's hard to get the shape on a small piece to get it rounded. Okay? All right, so I am going to use one of my punches and put this in here and just give it a little bit of curve. I'm going to check that. And that's just perfect. That's not a real deep curve like it could be. Not real cupped. Okay. Now I'll put the other one in there. You know what I should have done? This is so me. This is so me. I should have just marked it. Not put the hole in it, but marked where I want to put the hole in it before I curved it. And I just use this grid that's on my craft mat here that I'm working on, and just kind of put this disc in the center, in the cross section here, and give myself a little dot right there. Okay. But, you know, I'll eyeball the other one as I do most everything that I do. That one I actually curved, I think, a little bit more. So I don't want it that curved. Hang on. I'll take my rawhide hammer here and just give it a tiny whack. Maybe just a, okay. Okay. All right, so now I need to put the holes in. This, I'm going to eyeball this hole. That's pretty good, actually, I think. And for this, I'm going to use, now I'm going to be using 14 gauge wire. So I want to make sure the hole is going to fit. Here's the 14 gauge hole. And you notice that I put the hole on the bottom side of the disc. Okay, so I'm going to put the disc in here like this. Okay, because if you tried to put the hole in it from the other way, you're gonna put a dent in the top of it. It's gonna kind of collapse a little bit. All right, so I'm going to take this, and put my hole in it. This is like the best hole punch. And I'm off center bad. Because I'm yapping and not paying attention properly. Okay. When you just feel it breaking through, then you go in reverse and take your screw punch out. This is right on target. This one is caca. All right. All right, we'll try this again. A little fiddling is worth it to get it done right. Okay. It's not perfect, but it's okay. It'll work. I'm going to test my wire, make sure it goes through, which it does. That works. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So we have our coils. We have our discs. All right. And we need to make our clasp. I like to make all the components before I start putting stuff together. That way you can just keep going. And I am using some 8mm copper beads that I have here. I have some little spacers if I want to use them. Little copper spacers. These are Tierra cast, and they have a nice little hole in them that the wire fits through real nice for 14 gauge. Okay, so I'm not really, I'm sure if they're the Heshy spacers or not, but I'll try to get that information too. The clasp is also 14 inches, 14 gauge wire. And where did I get the beads? You know what? I just found a place on Etsy a little bit earlier, and I will put the name of that shop on there as well, because I was running low on the 8 millimeters, and it apparently they have a lot of sizes. With the copper beads, like an 8 millimeter is fine. It'll go through the hole. The 14 gauge wire will go through the hole on an 8 millimeter bead, no problem. It's as you get into the smaller beads that you could have an issue. Like, they do make, and these are harder to find, and honestly, if I knew where I got them, I would certainly share that with you. And also, I'd like to find some more myself, because this is all I have. But these are 4 millimeter beads, copper beads, and these are considered large hole beads. The other holes are standard. I don't know what size they are, but they're teeny compared to these. So if you wanted to use smaller beads, they'd need to have the larger hole in them. So that if anybody finds them, I'm going to keep searching for them, but if anybody finds them, please share the source, because these do come in very handy. Okay, so in this example bracelet, I used 4 of the 8 millimeter beads, and then I used copper washers, which I have from my riveting supplies. And these are kind of neat because they fit the wire, and they just give a little bit of space, not much, but it's more of an aesthetic, you know. It just kind of, they just look nicer to have those in there. So, and I have the resource for this too. So these come in a couple of different sizes. You don't have to have them if you don't want them. I have them for riveting purposes, so you might find them useful for that if you do rivet as well. This is a little bit larger size diameter disc. These are a little bit smaller. And these are supposed to be thicker, but they appear to be patinaed, but they don't really seem to be much different, maybe just a skosh smaller than these. So I just have these 3 sizes. So it's something to consider. These are pretty inexpensive, but they're great for riveting. Okay. All right, so for my clasp, I'm just using my standard half S hook. There's probably a proper name for that, but I don't know it or don't remember it at this point of my brain. All right, so what I need is a flush cut 2.5 or 2.25 inches for the plier that I'm using. All right, so I'll explain that in a sec. So I'm going to take 2.25 inches of wire, flush cut at both ends, and I am using a large round nose plier. Okay, this is a standard length right here, and this is the long nose plier, quite a bit different. However, you could use a baling plier if you have those, or a wrap and tap if they're skinny enough. But what I'm looking for is the size at the very back of the tine of the plier, the widest portion. That's what I'm going to be using. If I was going to make my clasp with a standard, it would have a very small hook. Okay, that's why I like to have this extra width here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I need my chasing hammer. I don't have that either. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is just at the very tip of one end of the wire, I'm just going to flatten it just a tiny bit. just because I want to round that tip. So I'm going to use my standard plier here because I want to make a very small pea. So I'm going to turn the plier. I've got the wire at the very tip of the wire on the edge of the plier. There's nothing sticking above it. And I'm going to roll my hand away from me. And I have to reinsert it to get it all the way to touch the straight wire. Okay, so it's making a P, kind of. Okay, so now I'm going to take that P and face it away from me, like face it to the wall away from me, and I'm going to put that in my long round nose pliers. P facing that way, you can see that. Okay, all the way to the back, and then I'm going to take my thumb and push this wire up and over to touch the back of that P. Can you see that? So that when I take my plier out, I've got like a little shepherd's hook. Okay? So now I'm going to take that shepherd's hook facing away from me, like towards the wall, put it all the way to the back, and I'm going to take that straight wire and lift it well, I did that wrong. I'm sorry. You could do it that way, but it's easier if you don't. If you take it by the edge, I'll do that again. Because you want to get that whole piece that was sticking out turned into a loop. Okay? Like that. So I'll do another one. This is 14 gauge wire that I'm using here for the hook. I think 16 gauge is a little skimpy as far as strength for the clasp, but if that's all you've got, you can try to make it work. So I've got 2 1/4 inches based on the size of my pliers. Okay, if you were using this size plier to make it, you'd need less wire. I'm gonna flatten that tip just a bit. Okay, I'm going to make my little P. Okay, little P there. Switch over to the larger. Put it all the way to the back. P facing away from me. And bring that wire up and over and touching the back of that P. Okay, so now I'm going to take this wire and put that in the plier like this and roll it away from me to touch the back of the wire. Okay, got that? All right, so now I'm going to take my chasing hammer, and a popsicle stick, craft stick, would come in handy to hold on to this part right here so that you don't pound your finger, but I'm going to live dangerously. And right here in the bend of that hook, I'm going to hammer it with the peen side of the hammer, but I'm also kind of stretching it out just a little bit. It gives it a nice look. This also should be more flat, so I can hold on to it better. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. And if you need to tweak it a little bit, you know, to make sure that it's straight and flat, you can certainly do that with some chain nose or flat nose pliers. Makes a nice little connector. Okay. All right, so we've got the clasp. We've got all our components. Now we just need to figure out size. I started with a 9-inch piece of wire just as a, I don't know, starting point. We're not going to need all of that because you're going to have length from your clasp as well. You know, that's going to add some length. So let's see here. So anyway, I am going to I'm going to thread on my bead. I'm going to kind of work going outward. Get my bead caps on. This is also 14 gauge, Sunny. I gave the choice of 14 or 16 gauge for your wire only because of the size holes of the beads that you might have. Okay, it's a more substantial bracelet if you use the 14 gauge, but more beads will fit through the holes of 16 gauge wire. So that's why I put a choice. But if you've got the beads with bigger holes, 14 gauge is the way to go. It's just stronger. Okay, so I've got my bead caps on. I'm going to take a couple of these washers. Oh, that's way more than a couple. But you could use a seed bead of your choice, really. And I'm going to put on one of the coordinating beads. Put one of these washers on this end. Okay, so you've got that. And then I put on another washer. But you could, if you had these other little, oh no, I lied. These don't fit through the 14. I think these are the ones that fit through 16. Yeah, these little Heshy beads, the tiara cast. Forget that I said that. They'll fit fine through the 16, but not on the 14. Okay, so I'm just going to take one more of these washers and put that on the other side of your little coordinating beads here. And then thread on a 8mm. And I'm going to put this all in liver of sulfur when I'm done, so it'll look real pretty. And the liver of sulfur does not hurt the glass beads at all. Okay, just in case you didn't know, it's really no hurt. It won't hurt them at all. All right, so I'm going to take a piece of, let's see here. Well, how long did I make these? I think what I'll do is I'll take a piece of this and I'm going to just kind of put my thumbnail through it. If you don't have thumbnails, you know, like long thumbnails, you can wedge your tool in there, your cutter blade, and break that apart. So I'm just going to put a couple little sections, cut off any part that's sticking out. We want to get rid of that. And I'm just going to count how many coils I have. I've got 6. So I'm going to put my fingernail through there. This is why I can't have nice nails, because I abuse them daily. But that's okay. It gets the job done. And I try to snip off any little extra that's kind of overhanging. So I've got 2 little pieces there. Oh, one's longer than the other one. All right, I'll cut one coil off. That's why it's good to check your work as you're going along. Okay, so now those are the right size. Now here's where you could sand those little edges so they don't catch on your clothes. Just a little bit is enough to get any sharpness. Hey, hi, Holly. Holly's been helping me with some clay that I purchased that I was having some issues with. So we've been conversing a lot in the last few days. She's been very helpful. Okay, so got those sanded. Feed those on. Then I'm going to put 2 more beads, 2 more 8mm beads. And there again, you can use whatever size you want. Just because I'm using this in the demo doesn't mean that that's what you have to use. You can kind of play around and try some different things. Okay. And I'm kind of just bending it a little bit as I go. Oh, thank you, Deborah. Yeah, these little sanders are great. The little sanding sticks, they work great. And one of the neat things is that you can buy your own sandpaper, all the different grits that you like, and just cut strips and fit them in there when these are worn out. So, all right. Okay, so now I made this coil earlier, so I'm going to take this one and use this for my sides. I'm real scientific here. All right, just disconnect that. Try to get them equal lengths. All right. Oh, I'm going to sand those. And I wish I could tell you exactly how long everything has to be, but I don't really know. I mean, it's all personal because um, everybody's got different size wrists, and you also like to wear your things differently. I don't like things that are real clingy to me. I like that I have some movement. You know, I don't want them tight. So, especially when it's hot and sweaty like it is now out, I don't want stuff sticking to my skin. All right, so I think I cut the wrong thing. I think this is the right one. Yep. Okay. It's like, that didn't look right. Got too many coils here. This one actually needs to be nipped. There we go. All right, so I'll put that on. And I kind of give it just a look-see. It doesn't tell me a whole lot, but it matters that it's all down in the right place, though. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to call this good. And I am going to I'm going to cut off the excess. Okay. So I'm going to cut off everything but an inch. So if you want to get technical, there's an inch. So I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut that off first, just the one, and then I'm going to take my long round nose pliers and I'm going to make a loop. Same way I did before. All the way in the back here. And one thing is that this stuff slides around. So once you've got your loop, your first loop though, it won't. So I made my loop and now I'm going to just insert the pliers here to try to get it to stand up straight like this. Okay. So actually I want this to turn my flat nose like that. Okay, so I've got the one side, one loop here. All right, so now I can cut the excess off of here and this won't be sliding around. So I'll get my 1 inch. So, you know, I've cut off, let's see what I cut off. I cut off 3 inches and I started with 9, so this is 6 inches. So you don't necessarily have to waste 3 extra inches, but I would probably do at least 8, just to stay on the safe side. That's based on your size too, so you may find it needs to be a little bit different. All right. I'm gonna turn that up. Okay, so both loops are straight up. And you know, you're going to need to bend it around a little bit until you get it in the right position for you. Okay, so now all I have to do is put my hook on. And say if you needed extra length, say if it wasn't quite long enough, you could put a jump ring to connect your hook if you wanted to extend it a little bit, one or two if you needed it. I mean, that's an option. But I'm going to use this to connect the hook, and then this is going to be my connecting hole here. So I'm just going to open up this loop just a tiny bit, slip that in, close up the hole, and then I've got some hot water. I'm going to mix my liver of sulfur and put that in. Well, for me, I suppose I could have made that just a skosh. I'm going to be one of those ones that needs a jump ring, and that's not a problem. So I'm going to open that up. Jump rings, where are you? Oh, I just had them. This isn't a very big one. Okay. This looks, yeah, that's better. Okay. So I'm going to just add this jump ring. Actually, you know, adding a jump ring is not a bad thing if you need the extra length, but it also helps pivot the clasp a little bit if you need it to, if it doesn't move as freely as you would like it to. Guess I didn't need to open that after all. Yes, I did. Okay. I'm talking to myself. Okay. But this is how you learn to make modifications if need be. And if you weren't secure with just one jump ring, you could put two on there, but that would give it a little bit more. Not much, but a little bit more length. You should be able to put these things on by yourself too. You should not have to have help. As I'm saying that, struggling. But I'd rather have it a little bit fussy to put on and stay on. Put it on the table. There you go. Duh. Okay. It could be a little bit tighter. All right, let's see. Well, no, not the bracelet itself, but I can see the bead caps are moving a little bit. Okay. Okay. Yeah, try to make sure that you seat all this stuff up real well before you make your loops. See, it ends up that I have a little bit extra space here, which I think I should be able to roll this out a little bit more. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put this in the liver of sulfur. That'll only take a quick minute. And then get all this stuff out of the way. I spilled some water. Holy guacamole. That got pretty dark. I think I made that a little too concentrated. But it's okay. It's all okay. It's all good. All right. So all right. So I'm going to get some steel wool. I always use 4O. That's four zeros. And we'll clean this up. All the components probably could be put in the liver of sulfur before you assemble, if you wanted to do that. It's just totally up to you. But anybody who bought the beads from me and is making this project, I expect to see you post it for the group. I would really like to see those, how everybody's comes out. And you can take off as much of the liver of sulfur as you want. It really took great on this coiled wire. Gives a nice contrast, the dark and the light. See, my clasp is a little bit off center here. There we go. And you could wear gloves if you don't want to get your hands all screwed up. That's another reason I don't do my nails, because I forget. I get involved in doing this stuff and I forget to take the time to put some gloves on. Between that and doing a little garden work, the hands are pretty much a disaster. Okay. That can be cleaned up a little bit further if you want. But I think, or at least I hope, you get the idea of how all of this gets put together. There you have it. So these are these are fun. They're fun in the respect that they're cute, number one, and you could actually even wear multiples of these, or not even put a big focal bead in the center if you wanted. Maybe just use some smaller beads and make several of these bangles, and you can stack them. So, you know, that's an option as well. So that, or you could use filigreed metal beads. You know, there's lots of different choices. It's just a matter of if you can find those components, and how, you know, how you like to put things together. This needed to be a little bit snugger. Okay, right here, there's some play in between the bead cap and the bead. And if I had pushed this up just a little bit more before I made these loops, I can still correct this. If I wanted to, I could undo these loops and then maybe just snip a little piece of wire, and that should probably do it. But you know, I'm thinking I'm just going to leave it this way. I have a show coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'll put it on the table, and hopefully somebody will like it just the way it is. You never know. You never know. Okay, so any other questions? Oh, Jennifer, I can always make these beads, you know, the bead sets. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if people get tired of me, you know, hawking stuff, you know, trying to sell different things, but, you know, I enjoy making those things. So, yeah, I mean, if I have people that want them, you know, I'd be happy to do it. Okay, so let's see if I missed anything. Oh, Suzanne, congratulations. New grandson. Very nice. I hope you can get to Canada to see him sometime in the very near future. Getting tired of all of this stuff. I know people are starting to travel, but I'm still not quite ready to do that. At least get on a plane, but I know people are doing it. So, oh, this hair. I'm overdue to get a cut again. Excuse me. I was, you know, last week when I was on, I think it was last week or maybe it was the week before, my bangs were like really long in my face, and I took my husband's barber scissors and I just, you know, but my hair is like naturally curly anyway, so with the humidity, it just does what it wants to do, you know. There's no trying to fight it because it just does what it wants to do. So, yes. You're going to go in 2022? Yeah. I hope so. I hope we can start acting normal again. We have resumed somewhat, but you know, there's still a lot of concern out there. All right. So next week I'm going to do the gemstone bracelet, the gemstone trio set. I have been waiting for everybody to get their kits, and everybody has theirs except a couple people in Canada, and I'm pretty sure at this point I'm beginning to think they're lost, because you know, it's been far too long. So we'll have to talk about that. And but I'm going to go ahead and do the demo. So anybody who has bought kits, if you want to work along with me, that's fine. It's not going to be exactly like a class. I mean, it's going to be pretty much the same as the demos that I do. That's the way it was set up. But people, you know, some people bought the kits, so they had all the materials. But I think doing a class for that might be a little bit, it might be difficult, you know, because everybody learns on different levels, or has different skill sets. So trying to have everybody keep up at the same time might be difficult, but I will always give one-on-one if need be. You know, I'm always available, or pretty much always available. And you know, I think we'll just do it that way. And then, you know, all the steps will be you know, gone over, you know, and then if you need to replay the demos, you know, you can always do that too. Oh, hi Wendy. Yeah, I know. I'm really frustrated with it too. You know, I checked on that again this morning and it just says it's in transit. So that could mean anything. It could mean that it's actually going to get there, or it could mean that it's lost and we don't know where it is. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do about that, but one way or another, we'll get it worked out. So, okay, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that because I know people are waiting to get that done, and everybody's been very patient, but I think it's time to do that. So we'll do the gemstone trio next week, and then I think the following week we're going to work on some coin jewelry. I've got some fun ideas I've been working on, and my brother sent me a ton of foreign coins. They're all worthless as far as, you know, face value and stuff like that, but I'm gonna do some fun things with them. So that's what I've got going on for the next 2 weeks. So hopefully that will work out. All right, guys, if you have any other questions or whatever, just let me know in the group, or you can send me a message, and I will add those couple things on the handout, the resources, and then I'll put the handout on the group page so you guys can print it up if you want. Okie dokie. Thanks for joining me. I always enjoy when you guys are here with me and we can converse a little bit. I always feel it's a little one-sided, but I do read all your messages, so I enjoy it. So I shall see you guys in the group. You guys take care. Bye-bye.